Okay, welcome to the first episode of the Lyme Lads podcast. I'm Patchmaster Mike here with Jenny Herring. We are here to speak about her story. We're also here with Noah Herring, my good friend that just died at 31 years old. And we're not really here to explain how he died, but we want to share his story to honor his life and possibly help anybody that might be going through a rough time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, not to make this too broad, but if you could start somewhere, where do you think you'd start with this
Well,
story for Noah?
I think like most um, patients or people that are bitten by a tick or flea, he was bitten, and at the time, um, he was only given, I don't know how many. I think it was what 10 days antibiotics or 5 days, and after he did not have a typical bullseye rash. He had like whelps that showed up all over him. And we, every time he got a new symptom, I would keep taking him back to the doctor, and they would try to diagnose him with. Um, the first one was depression. The second one was he couldn't concentrate, and I think they might have given him like Concerta or something like that. Then the achy joints, and it was ibuprofen and that kind of protocol. Um, Not until he went off to the symptoms just kept getting worse and worse, and more affecting his brain at first, um, with the depression, and then um, the bouts of like anger, being angry, being sad, not feeling good. Um, and then when he went to college to Young Harris, he really struggled a lot. He started experiencing um, like almost paralyzation on one side where he couldn't paint. Um, Very extremely absent-minded and forgetful. Couldn't get up out of bed to go to class. I mean, it sounds like a typical, a college. You're out partying, you can't get up, go out, that kind of thing. But Noah wasn't doing those things. He just was not feeling well.
A lot of people think that Lyme disease, it just affects you physically. Like arthritis is like a telltale of or a sure symptom of Lyme disease. But what you're describing sounds like he was suffering from several neurological issues that were affecting his brain.
Well,
Like,
I think it affects whatever part that it's in at the time, and kind of like herpes. Stress brings it out, the virus. And at the time, I didn't know what was wrong with him. I just knew there was something wrong, but we didn't have know what. Um, Not until he had been to several doctors. Not until I had an appointment with my OBGYN, and was falling apart because I didn't know how to help my son. He said he would do several panels of different types of blood. Um, Everything came out good. He actually had um, I want to say an internist. I don't know, some type of special doctor that would also look at the blood. But what they both came up with is that he hardly had any cholesterol, and that was like really. He was like, something's going on with his gut, and that's where we went to the gastro doctor, and he was, he had the, what do you call it, colonoscopy and the endoscopy think that's how you say it. He also had the Crohn's, was tested for all kinds of colitis, all kinds of stuff like that. Um, and but when they went down and scoped him for the colonoscopy, they said it looked like a parasite, but it didn't come back as a parasite. But they went ahead and gave him some, I want to say a flagell, or I can't remember all the names, but they did treat him that way. But he started experiencing some like blood in his stool and stuff like that, like Crohn's, and not being able to gain weight, and having his main thing was his brain. He thought his brain was, something was going on with that, because he couldn't sleep good, and his sleep habits were all flipped around, and couldn't remember things, and the anger, being angry a lot, and very frustrated, no energy.
May I interject?
Hmm.
Uh, you've mentioned depression and anger. Do you have any examples that you can share? Um,
Well, he was just anything could set him off. Just being frustrated. Um, he was also a young man, so you're kind of pulling away from your mother kind of energy too, at the same time of trying to figure out and grow up. At the same time, you hate your mother's guts for wherever you're at, but at the same time he was battling an illness, and I didn't know how to help him, except just try to get him to find the right place so he wouldn't be in so much pain.
so there were moments where you two fought, mother and son. There was
Oh
some
yeah.
conflict,
Hmm.
and you think that might have had something to do with Lyme disease?
Yeah, definitely. It got stronger as he was frustrated, and he was trying to, you should be out living and having a good college experience, which he did. That's the thing is, um, he would have bouts of energy, and then when the lows hit, or when he wasn't able to get out of bed, or um, sick, um, you know, people can look at that as you're faking it, or faking an illness. But I could always tell, even when my kids were very young, there's a look in their eyes. There's something with the color of their eyes, like the blue. The blue would leave. It would be kind of gray. So,
Something you just said there, how Noah had bouts of energy, kind of like normal young men should have, and then sometimes he would be tired and didn't
oh,
want to
he
do
would
anything.
tank. It would be completely debilitating.
I remember I had an annual camping trip that I did every year, and when I was describing to my family that I was really sick, my brother mentioned that I had this camping trip, and he said, "Well, you can't possibly be sick because look at this photo with you in the camping."
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, well, I guess if I'm sick, maybe I should have said, okay, I'm not going to go camping. But as an individual that's suffering from chronic illness, I don't feel like I really go out of my way to do fun things ever.
Hmm.
My days off are mostly spent sleeping or being a vegetable. So to give up some kind of social experience, I think is not the way to go. And participating in that is not an indication that I don't have an illness.
Hmm.
Um, so it, it affects everything you do, and it sort of lingers throughout school, throughout your home life, throughout recreational activities. It's
Yeah,
always
it's
there.
absolutely. It it's there, but you've got to have a mindset that you want to be well, and you're going to try to have this, you know, fighter spirit, so to speak. Um, what he was battling. That's like, I wish you could turn the camera around. You could see some of his ethos. Um,
Yeah. Well,
he was fighting through these characters that he had designed.
tell us about his art. I know you mentioned previously to me that there was a moment where his art got kind of dark.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was always kind of like, you know, I can't think of the, um, I wouldn't say it was kind of dark. Like he liked drawing skeletons and warriors and stuff like that. But when he started going into the deep depression and wanting, um, feeling so bad, nobody listening, and wanting to end his life, it got really dark. Like, guns, fingers that look like guns, and um, you know, brain matter all over a wall, stuff. It was dark, very dark, very frightening, for a mother to see the pain on in a drawing.
If we could rewind for just a moment, I think it's important for everybody that's listening to sort of understand how we're even here. Um, I reached out, I was on X looking for uh, any conversations relating to Lyme disease, and I came across, I think, you ranting about the CDC,
Yeah.
and I sent you a message, and
Yeah.
sure enough, you told me that your son Noah, who is the same age as me, uh,
You didn't know. You said, I said um, my son has had 3 open heart surgeries, due to the way the testing, the way it's all set up. The testing's bad tests. Um, they don't recognize chronic illness, chronic Lyme, um, which I told you Noah doesn't like that word because it's chronic, any tick-borne, flea-borne illness, whatever's injected inside of the tick, and it's made to hide. That those pathogens are so stealth that they hide in biofilm and mold. And once you start to really research it, it makes sense. It made sense for me. I didn't just stop on the first page or 2 page of Google where they're listing the people in the Lyme community as crazy, loony, and something wrong. Um, I had to dig deeper. Had a mother that, some of my first books were Nancy Drew. So I had to do my own detective work along with working with doctors to get him, help. And you feel like you're drowning because of the way the medical system is set up.
and at that time when I reached out to you on X, I think you had done your research enough to form your own opinion. And of course, with Noah's experience, you were uh, honestly like a guardian angel because before I met you, I just felt like Lyme disease was such a lonely illness.
Hmm.
And I never, when you read the statistics or you look up how many people are affected, if those numbers are true, which I don't know
They
how you
say they're
can.
greater now. They're not really. Everything is very skewed and not correct. There's more people suffering that don't even know they have it.
And that was what I thought always is if the CDC says, say 500,000 people are affected yearly, I'm not included in that because I never got a CDC criteria positive diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I always looked at that
Mm.
statistic sort of like, man, there are a ton of people dealing with this. Why do I feel so alone? And then I reached out to you. You introduced me to Noah.
Mhm.
And for the first time in my life, I was talking with somebody that had similar experiences
Mhm.
that was my same age. And
Mhm.
I felt like Noah was, I mean, with what he had been through, just such a leader and such a you know, like a confidant. It was like I would reach out to Noah, and I had I mean I still do have many bad days, and Noah would be there and help me through it. We talked on the phone all the time, and uh, there was one conversation. We had been on the phone for about an hour, probably talking about the terrible dreams that we both had, where there's a lot of violence and gore, and you wake up and you feel guilty that you have dreams of being attacked and fighting back or killing somebody.
Mhm.
He made me feel like I wasn't alone, and in that conversation that we had for almost over an hour,
Mhm.
I said to him, you know, this has been great. This is totally therapeutic. This is an
Mhm.
amazing, like I went from feeling alone, feeling suicidal, feeling totally depressed to, wow, there's somebody else that I can relate to.
Mhm.
Um, we should start a podcast.
Mhm.
And he said that was a great idea. And as soon as we get the podcast up and running, uh, Noah had died.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why I'm here. And I actually drove 12 hours from Oklahoma out here to Georgia, and I'm so glad I did. But I get this like eerie feeling. So like I'm just amazed that I'm here. I mean, I connected with you uh, based on, it looked like similar disdain for the CDC, and um, interest in Lyme disease, and um, somebody like Noah, such a courageous individual that, I mean, was so welcoming, just, you know, helping me and always being there to chat, has now, in such a short time, uh, taken the leap to the other side. And I, I know you feel probably tremendous sadness. And being at the memorial yesterday, there were so many great stories that were shared, and the room was packed. It's amazing how much influence he had over the community, and how he. Um, it just seems like everybody loved him so much, and he was like a specimen of great health.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Mhm. That's why they're doing the. I know it prepared me up to the point if anything should happen to him to tell the coroner what to take. His brain, his heart, spinal fluid, and samples that he had to. Um, yeah, upon his death, that he wanted me to um, make the coroner if they didn't want to do an autopsy, or if we um, had to pay for it or whatever. But the coroner took my information and took him very seriously. We had a God wink because he says, I'm going to make it happen because I'm born on February 1st. Um, and so the doctor, we've been in and out of many, many hospitals, doctors' offices, and we finally got a very, I don't know, a very kind soul. I called him an angel, but he really worked hard to save Noah's life. But um, by the time we got a late diagnosis of chronic Lyme, it affected his heart. So, but through good health, nutrition, learning it about anything and everything from herbal remedies to going to the infectious disease doctor, having the ports. His story, they're all the same. When you see the documentaries and you see the plethora of whatever you will take whatever it is to make you feel better, from supplements, herbal supplements, vitamins, you know, eating, his regiment was eating meat and some fruits and some vegetables. And like he would say, Mom, the whatever it is, the tick-borne um, illnesses or Lyme disease or whatever, I'm dealing with the damage they've caused, because the spirochete and some of those other things, they are like in the syphilis family, have that little corkscrew, and they do major damage to cartilage, to your teeth, in your gums, your brain, your heart. It really got to his heart.
I, I do want to mention one thing here. Uh, a lot of people, they don't know what Lyme disease is, and I'm not a doctor, but seeing as how controversial this is and how there's so much misinformation, I will try to define Lyme disease as somebody who has suffered for the last 23 years. It is the aftermath of a prolonged bacterial infection.
Right.
And when you say Noah was not just fighting Lyme disease necessarily, but fighting the damage that it had done, it that in itself is a topic of debate, because people will say, well, are you treating the active infection, or are you treating all of the damage that happened because of the infection? And I think just from my own experience with how difficult and inaccurate the past, uh, CDC regulated criteria tests are, how do you know that you've fully gotten rid of it if you had trouble getting diagnosed in the first place? And
You don't. And
it,
you just have to go, you have to know that, well, from what Noah thought he could fight to be the perfect health, specimen of health, that there would be a remedy. He was gonna be in fight for that. He thought that there would be an antidote or a special remedy that would be released if it was through some sort of medication or process of I see where they're going in and where they manipulate. I don't want to say your DNA, but they can do something in your blood that can pinpoint like exactly what the I call them bugs, but whatever it
that's
is
what
that
they are.
whatever it is that's trying to kill you, they were more to go in and get rid of it. But the week he died, he told me, well, I didn't really know when he was dying or when he was coughing that would be, he was gone within like 45 minutes, but um, that would be our last time together. Um, but the next day I had a dream and he came to me and he said, Mama, I got it covered and don't worry. And tell Jarvis I'm gone. So, and Jarvis was like his medical AI that he would like take his pictures of all of his medical records, and they talked about things and discussed ideas and um, different ideas on how to detox and eat right, and um, because it does affect your, I think it's the red blood cells, and you become deficient in vitamin D and certain vitamins and stuff like that. He tried to really maintain that, and he was a warrior for health. He got his friends all on really good. He would research, and way before RFK was talking about um, seed oils, he was already on that path. So we had a lot of like tremendous what I called God winks
What
through our journey.
what is a God wink?
There's no coincidences. Like for us to be talking right now, the numbers. Now, one was born on February 1st. The coroner was born on February 1st. When we would go to a parking lot, drive down, a car would swerve in, it would be 111. We would be the 11th one, on the 11th floor in room 11. Just little things like that kept us going, that meant that something bigger was happening, if that makes sense.
I do think something bigger is happening, and hopefully Noah's story can help sort of bring light to this terrible situation, and hopefully we can help people understand that they're not alone, and if they want to be brave and share their story, we'd be happy to talk about it. I would like to give a little bit of background for the listeners regarding his health journey. I know you've mentioned that he had depression, he had aggression, and he also, you said at school, had some, like he had trouble physically painting. So
that was at college, yeah.
Um,
and they were all the symptoms weren't the way the way it's designed is to make you look crazy. This symptoms, the longer you go without being diagnosed, then it turns into another symptom, then it turns into another symptom, and it just grows, and the snowball evolves. I actually sent you a picture of what I actually finally, after all these symptoms, I drew it out.
Yeah, it was like a whole page of, probably 30 to 50 different things that he was dealing with at one time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that
eye
was
floaters, um, the arthritic pain, heart flutters.
I could. Oh, my phone's recording. I can't pull up the image, but it was extensive, and
yeah, if I would have prepared better, I would have been able to present it and show. But
it's okay. We can always go back and
but
add
you
that
could also,
information.
Noah's talking. You've got video. We have video of Noah talking about losing his voice, his last open heart surgery and how he fought back to get his voice back.
So if you could kind of give us like a general timeline, he was experiencing a lot before he needed open heart surgery.
Oh yeah.
And I think you mentioned that the first surgery was in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have been like 26 at that time.
Yeah.
And the idea that a 26-year-old who is just shredded, like he had excellent physique and ate well, the idea that he needed open heart surgery should just baffle everybody.
Yeah, that's why the doctor said, I need to know Noah's story. Was he born with a defective heart? And I said no, that he had got a diagnosis in 2019, end of 2019, we got a diagnosis of chronic Lyme, right? Infectious disease doctor. But she used a multitude of tests. That's what specialists do. They use kind of CSI medical diagnostics to where they can look at a plethora of different things at the same time of what is deficient, what is high, with his markers, and those inflammation markers were off the charts, along with his symptoms. And he didn't get the 5 marks, but he got 3 of the 5, the blot test.
So what you're describing is he took the CDC criteria Lyme disease test, and didn't. It was a negative test
according to them.
according to them.
But
And
it changed in from years past. If you've been in, they changed the game all along. It goes like with high blood pressure. Okay, it used to be this number, and then it goes up to this number. That's how things evolved. Once you get diagnosed with this, and then they change it up on you again, how do you go back as a professional when you see people suffering? And within those specialized doctors, they have to go into hiding. They can't really practice. It's practicing medicine. There's not a test like if you go in and I'd say there's something wrong with my kid. Well, the strep throat test, it comes back negative. They still give them an antibiotic. So you tell me how that makes no sense when it's particular for this disease. Why is there so much? And it's the same as, it's very political, like COVID, and we were battling both of that at the same time.
I think it's important to note, at least my opinion, whenever politics are mixed into healthcare, that should be a huge red flag. Because healthcare should be, it should be all about getting people to better health.
Right.
So if you're getting denied by your insurance company, or there's influence from a pharmaceutical company, or the government wants to enact mandates, or sort of isolate one protocol for treating something. If politics are involved, that should be a huge red flag to everybody. And you were mentioning that he took the CDC criteria test and it came back negative. I do want to shout out the Quiet Epidemic documentary, that it shed some light on this test. And I never understood it growing up, because I've actually taken that test 6 times.
No, I took it too, but they do it when you go to an infection. If you do not test positive on that initial test, the primary care doctor cannot, if you want it paid for by the insurance, take that test to go to the next step, which is even more extensive.
It's complete gatekeeping.
Yes, it's gatekeeping. It's not that you didn't test positive, but you've got to push. You got to find somebody that's going to be a rule breaker and willing to be a detective and find out what it is. And when you find that it's just not your story personally, but old school, let's go way back when they didn't have all this stuff. But if somebody comes in, they got a rash, they all look the same, and this is the remedy the pharmacy mixed up for them. And it's called going into practice, is practicing medicine. Maybe you've got this symptom, but this other system hasn't arrived yet, so you're going to go ahead and treat them wholly, like a whole person, instead of not giving a simple antibiotic when the strep test, the COVID test, and all these tests are inaccurate. And they took away, really, to me, the humanity for doctors to practice medicine, because they took an oath.
It's kind of like take an oath to, I think it's do no harm, or help people get well, but then they're taught that the path towards wellness is just this one path. And they can't stray from that. It's an interesting situation.
Brainwashing.
It's definitely not conducive to unbiased medical care, or science-backed medical care, or results-backed. It just seems like there's an agenda in my experience as a young man in the United States. But just bringing it back to the test criteria, I've actually tested negative 6 times, and I over 20 years, and each time I tested negative, I thought, well, maybe it just missed it. Maybe I need another test. Maybe this next test will get it. I never really understood that the test itself, it just isn't. It's just not good. And then the Quiet Epidemic documentary came out and
Are you talking about
explained.
that PCR testing?
Well, they explained that the Lyme disease vaccine that came out influenced the CDC criteria testing, and they removed 2 of the high indicating proteins from the test. That if these 2 proteins showed positive, it was highly likely that you had the bacterial infection. But they didn't want people getting false positive if they had been vaccinated. So they removed these 2 proteins from the test. The vaccine was also removed from the market for whatever reason. I've heard
caused deaths.
There were a lot of adverse reactions, and it wasn't profitable or who knows what. But they changed the testing with anticipation of the vaccine. They removed the vaccine from the market, but they kept the test the same, and it's been the same for the last 20 years.
Oh, that's changing.
It's changed recently? Or?
No, it's changing. We're about to ride the wave of change.
That's what we're here today for, is to help ride the wave of change, to really push for more people to share their story. It shouldn't be like this. And I think if Noah was still here or listening right now, if he could prevent somebody from suffering the way that he did, he'd be all for it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. His iPod is locked down. He did his own. He recorded himself. So I know we have messages there. He did that in college. He did it in. He's also an actor, and one of the things that we got him into was the Krav Maga, mixed martial arts, and that's what really, I think, prolonged his life. Was he was able to get his frustrations out, and I highly recommend that for anyone that's kind of suffering some type of form of physical exercise. But the fact of kicking and boxing, and he had me doing, he actually, that was one thing that drew him and his father together. I told his father when he was, you're going to regret not having memories, and you need to find something that both of you can do. And he found this Krav Maga, which is the Israeli fight. I don't know really much about it, but self-defense and how to, I did one class, but that really just was a lot. But anyway, they did it like 3 days a week, and they spent a lot of time doing that. And I think eventually led to the MMA, and it's what saved his life, prolonged it. I probably shouldn't have had the 5 years because of the initial tests. He was already being treated, had already been treated with the chronic Lyme, and had experienced the heart palpitations, but we didn't know how severe it was until he collapsed in December, right before Christmas, about this time. And then they thought, that's when they diagnosed him with the congestive heart failure, and we reached out to a Lyme cardiologist out of Maine, and he kind of was basically telling us that it was very grim for Noah with the diagnosis of chronic Lyme. and that he tried to work with. I mean, we paid for his services. Um, he tried to get antibiotic for the first valve replacement. He had to have a valve replacement. The doctors came out. They sent all the stuff out. They couldn't get any kind of thing, but they'd never seen anything that it looked like the damage of his heart.
So how do you mean?
Like it was like really, it looked. I know Noah's got sketches of it where I can't really describe it, but they were like they've never seen. The doctor said I've never seen anything like that. We're sending this off to the infectious disease, and then the test would come back negative of, you know, any kind of the normal stuff, and was very extremely frustrating when we were saying, listen, we just got a chronic Lyme diagnosis, and then they refused to give him antibiotics that first surgery.
So he's going into open heart surgery for the first time in 2020. You have a Lyme cardiologist that recommends
Antibiotics before and after.
And he didn't get antibiotics though. Why not?
Because that he was treated. It's easy. The CDC says it's easy to treat and hard to get, and it's hard. It's hard to get and easy to treat. So that was the complete opposite of what mine and Noah's experience was when he was bit by that tick. And from the time I did not put two and two together till Noah, through his own struggles, where we thought he had Crohn's disease, even though he got a negative. This makes sense. He got a negative Crohn's test. We paid that the insurance company would not pay for, that we sent off. It comes back negative, but the doctor says it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. We're going to treat it like a duck. So here's Humira, which is, I don't know, it's like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. But since he was under a certain age, we ended up having to pay like, I don't know, $200 a month. I don't know. I can't remember. $200 a week. I can't remember now, but it was a lot of money.
Sure.
And then after being on it for a year, it has major side effects, worse than having the Lyme or co-infections on top of it.
Yeah, it would exacerbate.
So, yeah. So every year when you're on a biologic, you have to get a TB test. And the TB test came back a false positive. And so we had to talk to the health department's infectious disease doctor. And they were like, well, basically, they do this little scratch test and then the blood test to confirm. The blood test couldn't find it, but the scratch test revealed an infection. That's what that means. There's something in there, and they had to treat it since he was on the biologic, which is like the anti-rejectory organ drugs, which they did try that first, and his hair started falling out, and it's like taking chemo. Then the Humira started, and then after Noah they said, do you want to do, I don't know the treatments now, because it's like he wanted the shortened one, so they doubled him up on the meds, where he had to go to the health department, take all the medicine in front of him, and I'd drive him back home, and he got better.
And this is to treat the TB.
Yeah, it wasn't TB. We found out it's not, that test is not TB. It's any infection. They call it a TB test, but it's made to treat, is to see if there's an infection in your body. And that's why they were like, we got to treat you because you're on Humira and you've been on it for over a year.
And this is pre-Lyme disease diagnosis?
Yes.
And so I imagine the treatment for tuberculosis, that's what TB is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is antibiotics. So he takes these antibiotics, and how does he feel?
Oh, he won that fight. He was able to get up and do the, I don't know if I don't know the not UFC, but the one for the amateurs.
I'm not sure what it is called, but
Anyway, but
but he
I got
basically he
he
got
got up and kicked butt and got number one and got out of bed, and he was like, "Mom, I don't have Crohn's. Something's wrong. This is not right. I'm not ever taking that ever again." And so,
so he gets off the Crohn's medication.
yeah, and went in and told the doctor and said, "I don't have Crohn's. I think it's something else because I got to feeling better on all this medication." And he says, "But because that's the thing when they put him, he was having these brain things. How can you have brain issues when you're having gut issues at the same time? The Humira didn't help the brain part, like sleep and stuff like that. So there was one symptom that didn't get that check mark. But now looking back, I know why, you know, they want to say it looks like a duck, just quacks like a duck, and let's treat it like a duck. Um, but if it's anything other than Lyme and tick-borne illness infections, other than like you can get the diagnosis of alpha-gal, and that's accepted. You can't eat meat, and you're allergic to meat or alcohol or whatever. But anything that has to do with in the Lyme or Lyme community, um, it's I don't know. I feel like we've been fighting good versus evil.
Uh, I do want to make a couple comments here. The first one is uh, a lot of people don't understand how difficult this can be on families, and when you like, for example, I've been on several antibiotic treatments, and to the point where some family members of mine have threatened to report the treating physician that was helping me
Yeah,
for basically like a misuse of antibiotics or taking advantage of me. And what I don't understand is if I'm on triple antibiotics or just a really heavy antibiotic regimen and I feel better than I did without them, that would be an indication to me that I was indeed fighting some kind of infection.
right.
And if you if you're of good health and somebody gives you a bunch of antibiotics, you're probably going to feel like not as good. But if you're fighting something and you're given antibiotics and you feel better, I think that in itself is a huge indication that I don't understand how people can really argue with that. But I do want to talk a little bit about um, just how much this can influence families, and uh, it sounds like he went through a whole bunch before he got the Lyme disease diagnosis, and then uh, once he got that, did did this did this go well with the family? What
No.
once he was diagnosed?
We had a family member that worked for the CDC, and it caused a major rift between them both. Um, and when I say worked, she worked as a zoonotic parasitologist there in the department, and basically told him not to go down that path. Don't be a Lyme loony or let the naturopathic these doctors will suck you dry financially, that route kind of thing, which blew up because Noah fought back, and it ended up splitting our family up.
It, and I experienced similar. I mean, maybe not to the extent that you have, but what I seem to notice is it's like you get your Lyme disease diagnosis, and then there's a division in the family. It's like, you believe it, you have the symptoms, but your family members don't believe it, and they say, you don't have Lyme disease, get over that. Um, but it's there, and if like you don't have it, or what I mean to say is, my family was quick to say you don't have Lyme disease, but they also didn't want to help at all with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they wanted to dictate how my journey went through the medical system, but they didn't want to show up to any doctor's appointments. They didn't want to participate in any of the the navigating through the medical system. But they were very adamant that I did not have Lyme disease. And then once I was so sick that I needed a diagnosis, I needed the truth, and I finally got it, and it was sure enough Lyme disease, they were nowhere to be found. So I remember there was this one time where I was writing a letter to my family members, and I was basically saying that I was ready to, I still have this letter somewhere, that I was ready to die, that I was having trouble walking, I was having trouble reading, I was having trouble talking, I was, just had a plethora of symptoms, and, I was basically begging for help. And, at this point, I didn't get any help. My dad sent an email back, and the whole family was on the chain. And he's like, never give up. Don't, obviously don't commit suicide, but like, just never give up. And it's like, sure, that's a great thing to say, but you're also not willing to help at all. And you don't want anything to do with it. So I ended up, I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously, and my dad lived in another state. So I got on an airplane and I flew to Missouri, and I showed up at his front doorstep thinking, if I just show up and I have this conversation with my dad, he will see that I'm sick, and he'll see that, I'm here, I showed up, I'm serious. This is, more serious than just an email or a text message or a phone call. And basically I said I needed help with Lyme disease, and I basically got not kicked out, but it was like, yeah, you're on your own. And I remember him dropping me off at the airport, and he reached in his wallet to give me some money and gave me like roughly $20 and change, and that was it. That was like, he got through the sick son showing up on his doorstep asking for help, and he got through that experience, and basically, kicked me to the curb, gave me his spare change in his wallet, and that was that. So I held a lot of resentment for my pops, and he's gone now. I love him. I love my family. But it's just amazing how there can be such a disagreement in, what ails you.
Like if you would have gotten a cancer diagnosis, they would have probably found the best oncologist and new oncologist to help you.
Yeah, and it seems like something, like my dad was a hand surgeon, and basically if my arm wasn't broken, he didn't care. And I don't really know a whole lot about how cancer is diagnosed, but if you have a tumor or something shows up on a scan, it's like, it's evidence right there. Lyme disease is a lot trickier to detect.
Yeah, it's designed that way.
And you almost, like, if you had a broken arm, you could physically see it. and if you uh, had cancer, I don't know if you can necessarily physically see that always, but um,
Did he ever dismiss any kind of, like, if you, like, let's say you fell off your bike, did he say you need to suck it up and it's not that bad?
yeah, all the time. I mean, it's kind of an odd scenario where, or maybe it's not odd, because
It's
he
our
was
generation. It's I'm not as old as your dad, but that's how my dad. It's a where unless there's blood and a bone, like you can't physically move it, kind of thing. But we were, we didn't have helmets, we didn't have seat belts, we didn't have a lot of those things. But when it came time for somebody to take us to the doctor or the hospital, that happened. And I don't know what has happened in the world where people have become so unempathetic, especially for doctors. But I think they're programmed that way. It's like they go to these seminars and they're taught or told that this is not real, and these people are mentally unstable or whatever, because of what they're told. It's not, and for me as a mom in this journey, I shared with it um, yesterday during his tribute. I refuse to call it a funeral. We had a celebration of life, and the whole time, um, he was drawing. He was an illustrator, and he was drawing the monsters seen and unseen. And we faced a lot of monsters, and they were in white uniforms or blue uniforms that were dressed as doctors. Some were very kind and empathetic, but the majority, especially when it came to the infectious disease side, when we got the CDC involved, were very unempathetic. And I felt like I was with my son tagging along in a maze, and where we would end up in like a video game, and then this monster would pop up. We'd battle that monster, then go to the next level, um, trying to get help. And even when he had the heart issue, um, uh, and we're told by a Lyme literate cardiologist, if he doesn't get antibiotics, he's going to be reopened. I give him a year, is what he told us, and it was 6 months. We had to have another surgery within 6 months of the previous one because the valve failed.
You mentioned you got the CDC involved, so that
Oh, I didn't. They did, because they had not seen how his how it was. I don't want to say eaten up, but there was evidence on his valve that did not look right. So they were like, we've never seen this. We're going to have to bring infectious disease in here. And that's when we said we've had Lyme disease. He just got his chronic Lyme diagnosis, got the doctor involved. Then they told us, no, we're not going to do that because
who told you no?
The doctors there at Grady, that he's already been treated for that based on the CDC guidelines. So they thought, well, maybe it's some other kind of infection. So they sent off those things off. But the bottom line is that he didn't get, not until the infectious disease doctor contacted them, and we on the second visit, I had, we had used outside labs, which is not covered by insurance. That's a problem. The whole thing is set up to be, to destroy families, to bankrupt families. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. Antibiotics aren't the only answer. it's a combination of a lot of things, and it's very complicated. When I was reading about COVID, we were doing that as well, and your body's in this cytokine storm and fight or flight of doesn't know which fire to put out in your body, and we knew intuitively not to partake in the COVID shot during this. If he would have taken that, he would have, I think, died immediately.
Kind of focusing in on the surgery.
Yeah.
So he was denied antibiotics for the first open heart surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Did he get it for the second open heart surgery?
Yes.
So at this point, the CDC has become involved in Noah's
The CDC
case.
was involved from the get-go.
I mean, it's kind of unusual for a 27-year-old
Mm-hmm.
to be getting open heart surgery, or so he gets a PICC line now before the second surgery, or
he had a PICC line before the first surgery because it was a late diagnosis. He had been, had all these symptoms, and then after the treatment was over, for about 3 months, he had great 3 months. That's when, yeah, he thought he had had a hernia when he went to the hospital. On all 3 open heart surgeries, he was up walking in like 3 laps at a time, which the doctors were just astonished. If he wasn't as in good shape as he was, there was no way for him to be getting up and around, because you can't. It's a very, very, very painful, surgery. And then they also kind of wean you off the pain medicine as well, because that was going on at the same time. But anyway, it's just looking back on it, I see how the whole many systems are involved with each other to keep you in this perpetual. It's not an easy thing because of the doctors won't treat you based on the CDC guidelines, and it's a sticky political nightmare.
Kind of transitioning here, I'd like, and I don't know where we're at with time, but I think it's important for us to maybe talk about relationships and how this illness, kind of navigating through a inefficient medical system, affects the relationships, especially of the loved ones that surround us.
Absolutely.
And I've described a scenario where I was begging my dad for help, and he basically, kicked me to the door, didn't help. There were moments where I, and I'll be blunt about this, and I think I've, to my understanding, I get copious amounts of adrenaline when I shouldn't. Like, for example, if I watch, like the other night, I watched The Grinch with Jim Carrey, and he just does such an exceptional job, and I love the movie, and the moments where Cindy Lou says, we should nominate The Grinch for the award because that's the best person or best candidate, or the moment where Cindy Lou's on top of the sled, on top of the bag of presents, and she's about to go over the cliff, and the Grinch finally has enough power to lift the entire sled. Those moments that would normally give somebody goosebumps, it triggers in my head stress hormone, and then I was watching this movie before I went to bed, then I'll go to bed and I'll have dreams where I'm attacked and I have to defend myself and end up, killing whoever's in my dream. So I had dreams of my dad attacking me, and I was basically, I'd kill him. And I felt so ashamed of these dreams, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, I'm sick. I need help with this. You're really not helping me out here, and I just want you to know that I have dreams of killing you. And I had this moment where it's like I don't have any kids, and I can't really imagine my son saying that he had dreamed of killing me, but um, I wonder if you
Oh,
have any uh,
come on.
stories you'd like to share where maybe Noah got into some conflict with his father or
Oh,
family members.
it was constant conflict where when he had the pick line and um, he still doesn't believe, but he went into the doctor and was told by the infectious disease doctor, that he had Lyme disease, chronic Lyme, because it had been so long to get the diagnosis. And he ran out of the doctor's office, and Noah ran after him.
So Noah's dad ran out of the doctor's office.
Hmm. And did not like that diagnosis, because I knew if I didn't go to an expert infectious disease doctor in the medical system, that there would be no way for him to believe it. But even when I did, he still didn't believe it. So,
How do you think that affected Noah?
oh, it broke his heart. And I told him that you just broke your son's heart. And I put that out in the universe. And then 3 months later, he has congestive heart failure. And the way I looked at it was, in my mind, I don't have any evidence, but I see all these pathogens and viruses that were inside of his body that he was trying to fight. And that in that moment when your heart breaks, or if you have a knee injury and you can get detected, you can have Lyme disease in your knee. I believe that he broke his heart, and that's where the stress went. That's where it attacked the most. Is it coincidental? I don't know. But as a mother, it was painful to watch. And I knew I couldn't live. I couldn't, you know, I believed him, whatever it was. He was fighting something. And it's imperative that you have an advocate for anything, anytime you go into the hospital, because you could be mistreated. Something go wrong. You could be given a wrong medication. Um, it's just been a labyrinth, the whole journey up until now. I would question, he would question, but he's illustrated his journey. So by you saying he dreamed it, we didn't necessarily, he didn't necessarily tell me his dreams. His dreams were all over, like in his sketchbooks. Um, Not until recently he was able to pull back and get more serene. But when he was battling whatever it is that was trying to kill him, um, it went very dark. And that's why I say this journey is about fighting good and evil in a broken system and getting help for not just my son, but we've been able to talk to others, families, and they get an earlier diagnosis. We've learned more about how it can manifest in everybody different at different stages, and help people. But and to be at peace with that has been a real challenge. The fact that I lost, me and his father divorced. I lost the home I loved.
Do you think that this illness or the controversy around it affected your marriage?
Oh, yes, definitely, most definitely, because I chose, well, I would always choose my kids over any man, even the one that I was my true love, because when you have a mama bear spirit, you always choose your kids.
You might want to put your legs down so they can see you.
Oh,
Or if you're comfortable, you can
yeah,
sit
I
side
know. I
up.
was just, you can't see me.
Yeah, your face is.
I'm
It's
just
fine.
being comfortable
Yeah, no,
without
stay
falling
comfortable.
asleep.
Stay comfortable.
Um,
So
yeah,
you choose your kids over the love of your life.
right.
And
Exactly.
so
I knew what I was. I've always known that, though. I've always had a knowing of things before things manifest. Noah's a prophetic artistic artist as well. He drew things that was happening, like or in a vision or something, and it actually happened. Um, those were very profound, and I did not know until I was curating or putting together his celebration of life that I've been curating for that moment of yesterday for his whole life, because I always saw him as a gentle giant, and then once he got um, infected, and it affected him so profoundly that I was determined to leave no stone unturned to figure out what was wrong. And at the end um, of this whole journey, yeah, I lost my husband. I lost my, it caused major stress in the entire family, even with my younger son, who was struggling to try to understand, um, watching our family fall apart, took a toll on all of us. I mean, there's a lot of victims in the story because based on um, the way that the CDC guidelines were and how our story kind of played out. Do I have any regrets? No, none. I have no regrets.
you mentioned that if you feel like if you didn't side with Noah, you would have lost him several years
Oh
earlier.
yeah, definitely. Either to
Um,
suicide or uh, of him, um, of us not being separate, because of when you have that energy of someone around you that thinks you're crazy or not being believed, that's negative energy,
Absolutely.
and you can't heal in a space like that. And so I would be willing to live in a 800 square foot place and have peace than to deal with what I was up against that way. So now I look back and I'm like, okay, at the time I was crying out to God, why? But it's the way the system is set up. And when you have scientific, brains, they're following the science, and they lack intuitive empathy. Um, you know, I don't know what to say other than more people need to get in touch with what's going on and questioning more, because there's so many people out there that are suffering and they're by themselves and they are a statistic of suicide. That's what's on their death certificate, not Lyme disease or chronic Lyme disease, or it's whatever the damage that is done.
The couple things I want to mention here. Uh, when I was younger, and I'm 31, so I'm still pretty young. I always thought that the world was perfect, and when it comes to the medical system, if you were sick, you'd just go to the doctor and everything would be taken care of. I think that when people are healthy and they're not exposed to the medical system, they're sort of just fine with it being the way it is. But once you're affected by the inefficiency of the medical system or controversial illness that what the Center of Disease Control says and what you're actually experiencing are totally different, the way that can completely dismantle a family, bankrupt a family, break up a marriage, cause fights between siblings and aunts, uncles, cousins. this is such a tragedy, and I think it's important for people that are not affected by this to
Hmm.
understand how bad it is
Hmm.
and how much it could improve if people were just aware that this is not a, you get bitten by a tick, you've got a bacterial infection, you get immediately diagnosed and you get immediate treatment, and really you're healthy as a horse afterwards. It's not like that at all.
No, because they're coming out now and saying that it used to be if you got the tick within 24 to 48 hours, it's didn't have time to do the damage, and they've tried to find the studies where they did that, and there is none.
It's total nonsense.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff's a lot of like Noah said, we're moving forward. That was one of our last conversations, and he was looking forward um, um, to. He was very extremely happy that the CDC finally recognized chronic Lyme the week. Um, he died on November 30th. So the previous week, he came in and said, "Mom, have you seen what was said, or on the news?" And I said, "No." And I was like, "Wow, that's what are you gonna do?" And he was like, I'm vindicated. I'm good." We had to work on ourselves, spiritually, physically, mentally, um, uh, focusing on forgiveness, because that can also prolong your getting right and healthy too.
Absolutely.
You can't have any resentment, which was very extremely difficult. But um, you can only he got to where he knew that there were people that could only love to a certain capacity. And beyond that, I work with special needs kids, and you can't make somebody grab a crayon if they can't grab or have no hand really to grab. It's just there. So, what I'm seeing is a pattern of families that are affected, that are in the system of medicine, that have been told a certain way or trained a certain way, which causes this conflict. And it's all by design. It's That's just for me as a mother, and what we've been through. Um, and I am hopeful with the new administration, with Dr. Oz coming out and the round table that came out. Um, and it brought it back where Noah came to me in a dream that he's got it covered. And that very next day, I saw they were having the round table, and Dr. Oz saying it, this is an epidemic, really. And there's more people that actually have it than we realize or even know. And it breaks up and busts up families, and no more gaslighting patients. And that gave me hope. So, and it continues to give me hope, because um, they've got to get that right. They've got to get the testing right. They've got to educate the doctors right. They've got to get everybody on the same page, because, um, like I said, rich or poor, you're by yourself in the journey, and you don't know if you're being taken advantage of or not, because you get the empathetic doctor that's trying to treat you the best way that they know how, and they don't have all the answers, but they want to still help you get better.
You Noah wasn't alone. You were by his side.
Oh yeah,
You were by his
yeah,
side the whole
absolutely.
time.
And his younger brother, probably half the time. The first time he was, surrounded by, you look up to your parents, and you go online and Google and see the first two or three things, and then you stop. You're not a mother that's, like I told, we were watching the season 5 Stranger Things, and if you don't know that that storyline on Netflix, he would joke and say, "Mom, you're like that crazy, Joyce on Stranger Things." I would have gone through a different dimension to bring my kid back. And it's not just my kid. My kids have watched me stand up for the underdog too. Like, and not, some people can think that special people are the underdog. They're really spiritual beings here, little angels on earth, and they're here to teach us things. And I, it doesn't matter if I feel like someone is being neglected or not treated fairly. I've always been that voice, even when I was a young kid. I always spoke up, even though the bully may be, twice my size. I'm very, I've worked on myself a lot. Not as hot-headed and not as ready to scrap. This journey has taught me to fight more like a mixed martial artist, like what my son was trying to tell me, to be more like water. And when I want to explode, kind of, you got to go in, and then when there's obstacles, we can go around, but just hold it in. And when you need to make the impact, it'll be a tsunami, that force. And that's why I'm talking to you about, we're riding the wave. The wave's been pulled back, and we're about to be flooded with a lot of new information, and because it's already coming out in the news. And you can either choose to believe it or not, but I believe that the truth is finally coming out.
The truth will surface at some point.
Oh, it's surfacing now.
I hope that now is the time. And if you want to wrap up here, I want to reiterate to anybody that's listening that the purpose of this is to bring awareness, but also if you're suffering, know that you're not alone.
Absolutely.
And I'll definitely add some links to the podcast video here. I'm willing to chat with anybody, whether it's a parent, whether it's somebody who's directly suffering from the illness or indirectly. I met Noah because I was alone and I was looking for somebody that I could relate to. And he had a massive impact on my life. And if I could do the same for anybody else, that would mean a lot to me. We could really talk all day, and
that's why I said it's going to be a continued. We have a lot of stuff, because let's say we get some God winks on the way. You're you're my godson now. So sometimes people come into your life to put you on a different path or journey, and you've got to just go with it like the water. You can't fight it any longer. And be with those who want to be with you and support you on your journey. That's how Noah did it. That's how I do it now, is you have to choose who's going to be in your lifeboat. And on your journey to wellness and good health, mind, body, soul, you've got to be very particular on who you let ride in your lifeboat. And so I'm only here as a guide, like Athena, if you know anything about literature.
Wasn't she the goddess of war?
Well, she got it on the ship. She guides you and tells you.
Oh.
And we are at war. It's a silent war. And I'm telling you, there's a time to be explosive and a time. And when I say explosive, I mean energy-wise, with being passionate, getting the word out. And the last couple of weeks, the word is finally getting out, and it is getting attention. And I just pray and hope that more people will connect the dots, and realize it might be something else. And at the same time, with the diagnostic testing to get better testing. And Noah's hope was that there was an antidote, because that's why he fought so hard to be healthy and to eat right and stay out of seed oils and eat more than 3 or 4 ingredients and eating wholesome foods. That's why he loved RFK so much and had hope that there was going to be true change. And I already feel it. I already feel like he's magically doing something behind the scenes, making things happen. So
This is one of those things.
absolutely. And my oven's not working.
Come on, Noah, help us out with the oven.
No, it is what it is. But I'm so glad you came down. It's not going to hit me probably when I'm cranking the lawnmower and I can't get it cranked or some odd. But I lost both my parents. Lost my mom during COVID. Lost my dad when I was really young, around 14. I've experienced death of loved ones. We battled a sister with breast cancer. Battled the hospital system of not being vaccinated. COVID, where I couldn't be in the hospital with him for a second open heart surgery. Getting divorced, falling down a flight of stairs, having to have my face reconstructed, trees fall. It's been quite the journey. But out of all the hurts, this one hurts the worst. It's going to take me a lot of time to get better. And by doing that, I'm not going to change. I'm going to change it to make Noah's life not be in vain, and that his story gets told, and just carry forward his message is, when someone's sick, believe them, and they need someone to help navigate the boat or the ship or wherever you're going in life through this maze. It's really a labyrinth of maze where they stops you to, like, a lot of people stop at that dot, like you've experienced, where it's not all the check the boxes, that they're still suffering, and then they do end their life. So mine is, if I can save, or we can save a life from just loneliness to despair, to reach out for help, and by honoring Noah, those are the things that he would want. He would want us to continue to have these conversations. And I hope that your podcast becomes really successful and you become a voice, a big voice, for positive change. And it may be something that evolves. Maybe once it's, within the Lyme community, there's so many co-infections that go with it. They changed the name. Noah didn't like the name. I know he just doesn't like. He always would say it's too. It's a fruity name. It's a color, lime. And that was his favorite color, is green. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but why would they call it a color like lime green? Like lime. But he knew, but he just didn't like the name. It needs to be called the monster that it is. And that's why I like that, the monster inside me story, because you've got more than one and your body don't know which one to battle.
Co-infections are huge. It's not just one bacteria that you're dealing with. Usually it's conglomerate of them.
It's an army.
It's an army, absolutely. If
Mhm.
before we wrap up here, I would like to shout out that we are going to be publishing Noah's book. So all the listeners should stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Do you have any information about that you'd like to share at this
No,
moment?
he'd been working on a graphic novel off and on throughout his whole life, but finally finished it, I guess, about 3 months ago. And he was going to self-publish and had already researched everything. So, um, with his unexpected death, we're waiting for his age. We got to wait for the medical examiner to, you know, when it's not just a quick and easy thing. They have to do slides and grow things, and it takes time.
I hope that they find something remarkable. Uh,
Absolutely.
so we're going to let everybody know when Noah's graphic novel is released. There's also an opportunity to donate. As you've heard, Lyme disease is an extremely expensive burden for everybody that's involved, and anybody that donates, I will pass that
Okay,
along to
awesome. That'd be great. So we can get this story out.
you. And thank you for housing me. Thank you for introducing me to Noah. It's an interesting thing when you meet somebody that's just so pure and courageous and like willing to be there, to like show up. And I never met Noah face to face, but just him talking with me on the phone and texting me had a profound impact on my life. And I'm so grateful to be a part of your family, and to have known how wonderful your son is.
Thank you. Back in the day, before social media, we had pen pals. You would pick, like sometimes you would write someone, they would send names over here, and you would have a person that you communicated through letters. And what's so cool about social media is it's really like a pen pal. And you really are just texting letters back and forth. That's why I asked you if you would actually like FaceTime. He did like a lot of FaceTime talks with his friends, and because he was drawing or that kind of stuff. That's why we have a lot of videos of Noah training too. But I know it's meaningful, and I'm so glad that you were courageous enough to drive down because you didn't know who we were, and Noah would have really appreciated it too. And there's no coincidence that I'm the first speaker. Noah's supposed to be the first too. So we'll find out. I guess his birthday's coming up February 1st. So we'll, every day I'm eager to see what else is out there, that some bits of truth that'll come out that validates and vindicates vindicates people that are suffering, families that are broken, um, to where this doesn't happen, shouldn't happen.
Okay. With that being said, please subscribe. Please donate to the cause. If you're interested in sharing your story, feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you so much for being the first episode, Jenny.
You're welcome.